Okay, hello there. How's it going? My name is Greg, but online my producer name is Lilac Rust. Um, and lately I've been getting one or two comments on some of my Jeff Buckley type beats asking for a tutorial on how I make them. First off, I just want to say thank you for thinking that these warrant a how-to. Your comments were very kind, so I really appreciate it. But yeah, let's just take a look at this song. The one that I'm breaking down today is called "Snowing." It's like the most popular instrumental I have on my channel by far. Um, but I think the techniques that I use for this specific Jeff Buckley type beat are applicable to pretty much most of the Jeff Buckley type beats I make. But if you ever want me to break down another one, because I know somebody else had commented on Hydrated, please just let me know, and I'll do a breakdown, absolutely. Because you know, being a musician, self-taught, and doing all of this, and learning everything on my own, I know how hard it can be getting started, and figuring out what you're doing wrong when you're by yourself. So, if there's anything you guys ever want me to break down, just please ask, because I know all about that struggle. But yeah, so let's just give it a little bit of a listen, and then I'll go from there and kind of break down what it's doing. Right. So, yeah, the other thing I want to note really quick here is, unfortunately, this beat being like 4 or 5 years old, I no longer have the original project files for them, so these are just like the stems. So a couple of like the guitar parts are kind of baked all into one WAV file, and I unfortunately won't be able to break down my effects chain too much. So like I said, this video is going to be a pretty brief overview, and then if you ever want me to go into more specifics, we can break it down for another instrumental, in the future. But so looking at like one of the main elements here, the acoustic guitar, yeah, let's give this a quick listen, see what I'm doing here. Right. So, one of the main things that I really rely on when making, a Jeff Buckley type beat, but really any beat that has guitar in it, is like without exception, pretty much, I always do a hard left and right guitar. And the reasons I do that for is, one, because when you do a left and a right, they kind of like cover up each other's mistakes. So if there's some fret buzz that the left guitar has, it kind of gets covered up by the right, and vice versa. And the other thing is it does a great job of giving you like a huge stereo image of the guitars, and leaves you plenty of space in the middle for vocals and any other elements you want to add. So I'd say that's the biggest thing, because a lot of people will record just one guitar and just place it straight down the middle of the mix, and that absolutely can work. But for me personally, I love to do a hard left and right, just playing the same exact guitar part for both takes. And I think that works pretty well. So yeah. Yeah, so in terms of the effects that I have on this part, so I recorded this in my college dorm room in my junior year, and I had a Rode NT1A microphone, which if you're in the market for microphones, I would recommend the NT1 over the NT1A, since the NT1A has some kind of funny frequency junk in its frequency response. The NT1 is a much more solid, flatter response microphone. But yeah, I recorded that, just with my acoustic guitar that I had in my dorm with me. So no fancy studio setup for any of this. But yeah, I recorded a left and a right, and I think I put, the basics, compression, EQ with some, put some shine on the top end, and a ton of reverb. You can hear it all in that thing. So yeah, that's acoustic guitars for you. The next bit is the ride cymbal. At this point, when I was making beats in my dorm, Everything else apart from guitar and bass, I would do with a real instrument. But everything else is synthetic. Everything else is a VST plugin. So the ride cymbal here, I think, is just a stock sound from Machine. Yeah, and it's, again, just a ton of reverb. That's what makes this track so spacey, is the amount of reverb I put on it. If I were to make this track again, I probably would not use so much reverb, because a little bit goes a long way with reverb. When you're first starting out, you can get a little bit carried away with it because it makes things really big and grand feeling, but it also kind of takes away from some of the clarity of the instruments. But it worked pretty well for this specific case. So that's the ride cymbal, is literally just like a ride thing that came as a part of like a sample pack. The ambiance. This is actually a pretty important bit, I would say, because you can barely hear it, but you really feel it. And it just does a really great job of kind of highlighting the top notes of the melody, and just giving it that little extra push to kind of guide your ear as to where, like, this chord progression is kind of going. And again, I think this was just some probably like a Contact VST thing. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't have the original project files, so I can't give you guys like specifics on the sounds. But again, just a little bit of reverb, and just a very light thing. As for the electric guitar, and bass, I think at the time I had a Focusrite 2i2, and I just recorded DI straight into it with my Fender Stratocaster. And yeah, I would just record straight in, and I would use Guitar Rig 5, like an amp emulator. There's a preset in Guitar Rig 5, Clean Cave. I use that all the time, and I can imagine it's probably what this is. Yeah. There's like a little bit of like a chorus on it there. That might be Edge of Infinity if I remember my presets correctly, which I might not. But yeah, again, just a ton of reverb. This guitar sits straight down the middle, and does like a lot more higher pitch stuff. Yeah, again, a ton of reverb on this, and yeah, just doing higher note stuff, again, to just kind of accent the acoustic guitars. And yeah, that's pretty much the electric guitar. The drums, again, were just all programmed on my drum pad. I have a Machine Micro Mach 2, and I used, I think, just like these I can remember. These are the Heracla drums or something like that. And they sound great for this track, and I think they're a pretty solid alternative if you don't have live drums available, like I did when I was in my dorm. So these were pretty good for getting kind of that Jeff Buckley live drum sound. And you don't have to worry about mixing these, because a lot of times when you have to do live drums, there's so much junk you have to do to get them sounding really nice. Not always the case, obviously, but getting your kick to really punch and your snare to punch as well and have that crack to it, it can take a lot. So the nice thing about samples was they were kind of ready to go, and they just needed some bus compression, and that was about it. And again, yeah, just a ton of reverb, man. Holy smokes, this track is drenched in it. So yeah, you can tell that it's pretty compressed, because you can see the way the kick drum like punches through the cymbals and stuff. Like there, you can hear that dip in audio. So the drums are pretty compressed. But yeah, like I said, they're all sampled stuff, and it's just a loop that I put together. So you by no means need a super fancy studio to pull stuff off like this. The next piece in here is the Synth Pad, and yeah, this is a very basic Synth Pad. I think the preset I used was a Retro Machines, I want to say it was like Matrix Pad 1 or 2 or something like that. And then again, probably I just put a little bit of reverb on it. And these just do the same, these just follow the same chords as the acoustic guitar. I would say when I'm writing pad stuff, I try my best to like keep the top note information of the chord pretty consistent. Like I like to really just have the bass note move and maybe like one or two notes from the chord change, but I like to have a lot of like consistent top notes because it just makes the whole chord progression a lot smoother. But yeah, that'll do it for the synth pad. Yeah, super simple stuff. You know, just letting the instrumental speak for itself, especially for the verse of this track. I mean, if we bring the whole thing in. Right, like I'm just hitting like single strums on the guitar. Synth pad's just holding out, and that's where that ambience really comes in key there. You know, that's huge. So those kind of details are always important. So having a nice synth lead just kind of baked into the back, yeah, I'd highly recommend it. And yeah, the last element that we have to go over is the bass guitar. At the time, I was using a really crappy, it was this like sub bass, and I don't know, the bass they make is probably fine, but the bass I had, like the pickups were just absolute junk. So yeah, you can hear how distorted it is. But that just goes to show that, like, people seem to really like this one, and the bass recording is junk. So, your productions don't have to be perfect for people to like them. And so this one did enough because it just had the low information that I needed in it, even though, the top end stuff, it didn't sound very crisp, and there's definitely parts where it kind of like distorts and bubbles. And, I wouldn't say it's a great sounding bass. But again, very simple, just following the chords. And again, I just DI this from my sub bass into, again, my Focusrite. And again, using just Guitar Rig 5, the DI bass preset, that's all you need. That's what I use for pretty much everything, obviously tweaking a little bit song to song, but it's pretty solid. So, you don't need a full studio to be able to pull something like this off. And yeah, so that pretty much does it for this instrumental, because it's literally, a chorus section and a verse section, and that's it. And then I just loop the chorus for like infinity at the end there. So yeah, that pretty much does it for this. Again, I'm sorry that I don't have the original project file, so I can't break down the specific effects and stuff. But if anybody ever wants me to, do another video breaking down the specifics of how I do certain, mixing certain instruments, please just let me know. 'Cause like I said, I know how hard it can be starting out as a producer, and just there's so much to learn. And sometimes you don't have like the vocabulary to like, learn what you need to find out. So if you hear something in my stuff that you like and you want to know how I did it, please just ask, because I'm more than happy to help. Instead of you just like, doing what I did, which was like slamming my head into a wall for, months on end trying to get a guitar tone that I liked. So yeah, that'll do it for this video, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye.